We're definitely going to be looking at our product roadmap today. So to properly set our expectations on that front, we need to review Salesforce's forward-looking statement slide. If you're unfamiliar with this slide, it urges Salesforce customers that any purchasing decisions that they make on Salesforce should be based only on currently available functionality.
And hi, everyone. Adam Torman, Director of Product Management, longtime viewer, second-time presenter. And I will be talking about some enhancements that we've made to event monitoring. One thing that Yari and I co-contribute to is the Salesforce Hacker blog. The reason why is because there's a lot of best practices, tips, tricks. So a lot of the things that we'll talk about, you'll see as blog posts, including the security health check and transaction security and event log files. So definitely take a look at those when you have some more deep down questions. All right, let's get started with, we talk a lot about the trusted platform, right? And we saw some incredible security features just today coming out in the App Cloud for Spring 16 that are part and parcel part of our trusted platform. And last year, we launched Salesforce Shield as an add-on offering to kind of go above and beyond. And it was really a compilation of many different products, including event monitoring, which at the very beginning, when we launched in November 2014, was just event log files. It also includes Field Audit Trail, which is the archival field history, and platform encryption supported natively on the Force.com platform. So it's really this amalgamation of this bundle of different products. And the product that Yari and I co-own, Event Monitoring, is the one that we're really going to talk about today, because we've made a number of different advancements in the past year. And you know, when we launched in November 2014, we had a blast. We put it out there, and we had enormous response from our customers. A lot of customers signed up. They said, yes, you know, we wanted logs, and we were tired of filing tickets to get the logs, and we wanted a service where we could manage that process ourselves. We could get the insights we wanted, and it was great. In that process, we heard from very vocal customers feedback that said, we want more, we want more, we need more granularity, we need more events, we need it to be faster in real time. And we heard that, and that's something that we've been working very, very hard on this past year. And we also heard, well, events and analytics and visibility into this is great, but I want to take action. And that action should not just be a manual process. That action should be based on an asserted policy, a security posture. And that posture should enable automated actions. And those actions should be not just near real time, but absolutely real time in the transaction stream. And then once it's all said and done, well, tell me what happened, because I still owe the auditors something, right? This is for regulated industries. This is for financial services and healthcare, life sciences, and they have to report to someone. And we heard all of this great feedback, and we have been very hard at work trying to fill many of those requests. So the very first request is really around analytics. And we announced Admin Analytics as a Wave application. It hit the release notes, unfortunately, a little prematurely as generally available. I would like to address that. Changes going into the release notes. It is coming out pilot, unfortunately. It's not a statement about the quality of the product. The product is actually fully fledged out and has these features I'll talk about in a second. But ultimately, to be able to easily enable this for customers, that process lives outside a product, and that's something that we need to get into a slot to make sure that that can happen. And as a result, that has caused a delay. So as soon as we can get that passed, that pilot will be turned into generally available, which means anyone can get that as part of event monitoring. But one thing I will offer is if you have event monitoring and you have Wave, contact your AE. And we will just simply put you in for this functionality, because it really is, it's like candy for admins and developers. So let's talk a little bit about what that candy is and what it tastes like. So first off, it comes with pre-configured dashboards, a lot of them. And they cover all the different use cases within event monitoring, whether it's auditability with data extraction, or performance-related questions where you need to optimize, or adoption, who's actually using Lightning, who's using my reports. Not only that, we've created a default 7-day integration that allows us to automatically put select event log files into Wave, and then that kicks off a data flow that just does magical things and turns all of those reference IDs into name values. So instead of the top 10 reports by user ID and report ID, you now see the top 10 reports by username and by report name. And that is a very important feature that we were able to leverage from Wave. And because it's Wave, it's highly customizable. This was really about changing the getting started experience, right? Taking an API first feature, right? Notice it's not API only, but API first, and turning it into an easy getting started experience. So from that getting started experience, you can customize to your heart's content as you explore and really create the processes around that data. And because it's Wave, it's shareable, and we also advanced the first iteration of the pilot, so now it's mobile ready as well. So with that, I'd like to actually jump into a demonstration of it. And the demonstration here really begins, we talk a lot about the trusted platform here. You know, it's something that we've heard repeatedly during the session. It's something we take very seriously at Salesforce. And I was around, I've been at Salesforce for 10 years now, and I was around when the trust.salesforce.com site was launched. Right? We were one of the very first public clouds to say to the world, we should be trusted, and here's the transparency. And part of that transparency, and interestingly enough, not a lot of people know that this is out there, is the ability on this publicly available site to see the performance by transaction count and speed across the entire service. And that's phenomenal. Right now I get to see how is Salesforce doing, right? How is the service doing in general? But you know, event monitoring and Shield really is about going above and beyond. It's an add-on. It's really about how do I turn trust into my trust, right? And for that, we generated the Wave application and admin analytics. And this is meant to be button-click simple. This is API first, so you still have all those great ISV applications out there like Splunk and CloudLock and New Relic. But we wanted to really be able to make this very easy within Wave. So all you do is you go to Wave, you click Create App, boom, there's a template right there. It kicks you off. It makes the process easy. And once you're in this application, which is this collection of different dashboards, pre-configured dashboards and integrations, I really start with my overview of my trust. Because at a high level, I want to know how many active users I have. Not just is the is active checkbox checked on the user record, but how many are actually logging in and doing something? And how many total transactions have I had? And what is my average page time or my server time? I see it's, you know, on average, it's about a third of a second. That's pretty darn quick. Max is 38 seconds. I probably want to drill down and find out what's going on. But I don't just want to know about server times that's happening in the pod. I want to know about the end user page times in Lightning. I want to understand their performance characteristics. And I want to be able to see this same transaction count and speed that I saw in trust.salesforce.com, but for my org and for my events. For instance, maybe I'm just interested in UI tracking, which is Lightning, and I'm interested in URI, which is Aloha Desktop, and I'm interested in Visualforce Request because these three really make up the majority of my UI transactions. And I can quickly see over the past week or 7 days, Aloha Desktop, wow, there's way more adoption there. But in terms of speed and performance, especially in this one day, right on the 15th, Visualforce, there's some work I need to do. So let me drill down a little bit more into this. You know, this is very much about security, and one of the main use cases that drive this is who's downloading report content, right? And I want to know things like, of the total report views, how many exports did I have, and what was the percentage of those views that resulted in export? That way I can actually start to understand what the baseline performances and profile characteristics are, so I can differentiate, is this part of Mike's job, or is Mike about to walk away with a bunch of data? But to get to that question of Mike is really about user segmentation. And this is where the beauty of Wave comes about in data flows, because I was able to denormalize these names and then do cool user segmentation. So now I can say I'm only interested in a particular profile, like Open Admin, and I'm only interested in a particular role, like admin, or maybe I'm interested in just a specific user, John Brock. This guy, he's questionable, so I want to know what he's doing. And I want to know, because I want to differentiate, his by user agent, is this something that is suspicious because this is like something he doesn't use, right? One customer I talked with, they were able to quickly identify when an attack vector happened because the user agent was so bizarrely different. The browser they were using was this very little known shell-based browser that is very common in the hacker community. And they were able to differentiate purely based on user agent, but of course IP addresses as well. And then I want to see if they actually downloaded reports, what were the reports by name, and what were the reports by username. You wouldn't think that this is a big deal, but IDs, cool, but not very analytical for business analysts. And other use cases like adoption. I want to understand at a glance. Lightning is great, but who's using it? How are they using it, right? What's the performance time look like? As we're getting into the end of the quarter, I want to see maybe Mark Benioff calls up and says, well, you know, I've been having some performance challenges, and now all of a sudden I actually have data. I don't just have Mark's word, which of course I would take at face value. I now have data. It's a data-driven decision because I can actually see what was he doing, and not only that, I can see it broken out and segmented by particular objects, like the account object, to understand what they're doing and how long it's taking and what devices they used, right? And if I'm a developer, I'm interested, our application lifecycle management says, give me a list of Visualforce pages I need to fix and prioritize. Bring it back into Sandbox, fix it, test it, push it out, ongoing maintenance and monitoring. And now I can see this very specifically, not just by user, what they're encountering, but I can quickly differentiate the fixes. So for instance, my max DB time, which indicates a fix for DML, like fixing inserts, updates, queries, is very low for Apex REST API page. And the max CPU time for the Apex controller, very low. I don't need to fix it, it's rocking. However, I probably want to fix the Apex limit event page, because this thing takes a long time. And when I get that call from my App Exchange provider saying, hey, it's time to renegotiate the contract, I can say, well, I actually know how much it's being used. And just a coup de grace from Winter 16, we added in API access to Setup Audit Trail, and that just made it ridiculously easy to add that into our admin analytics app. So now I take that great Setup Audit Trail information that I'm used to as an admin, and I can now segment by profiles and users. I can see how many of my users are MAD, stands for Modify All Data, MAD users, versus Customized App users, what they're doing, and even what's happening with login as, which I know is very critical in regions like EMEA. But just to finish up, when we talk about event monitoring, we talk about how we transition from analytics into actions. And that really starts with understanding our users and how they're logging in and where they're logging in from. And I want to be able to take that information and make a data-driven decision on policies that I can put into place and automate. I can understand the trends of users, how they're logging in, where they're logging in from, what URLs they're using, so that I can use that to make very informed decisions as I craft those policies. Event monitoring in the past year, as you can tell, has grown and it continues to grow, and we listen to our customers and we know that there is a lot more we need to do, and we're really excited to continue to provide it. One of the features that has been in pilot that is now generally available, means all of our event monitoring customers automatically get it, is something called login forensics. And login forensics really is the long-term storage of login information, right? Think about login history, right? Everyone gets it, it's fantastic, you get 6 months of it, but what happens if you need it longer? How do you archive that? How do you have access to it? More importantly, how do you have access to it for real-time purposes or near real-time purposes for analytics and analysis, and use it for session trackability? So we built out login forensics. It is API first. You have the ability to extend out information. You have not just IDs, but username is in there. You can extend out with the HTTP headers to be able to collect additional information through integration so that you can do advanced profiling characteristics. One of my customers said every time someone comes from the trading application into wealth management to view a contact, I want to track that transaction off platform, onto platform, and back off. I need the ability to extend login information. And I need to be able to build custom applications around it that highlight my workflows, or be able to, because I'm a Wave wizard, be able to pull this in using tools like another pilot, Async Sockle, so that I can easily integrate this back into Wave. So just for a quick demonstration of this, now as I mentioned, login forensics is an API-first feature, and so to show it, I can either show a blinking cursor, which is fun and fascinating, or I can show a Visualforce page that represents it. But the first thing to understand is if you are an event monitoring customer, this is opt-in, so you will come into setup and you'll see this new event monitoring setup node, and then you can enable it. Once it's enabled, it starts collecting that data and starts the clock on the 10 years. And one of the things you'll notice about this data as I show in this Visualforce page is it has the same kinds of attributes as login history. We're working very closely with the authentication team to take all the phenomenal work they're doing and make sure that it's available in this add-on for really advanced use cases. Not only am I able to track things like the actual login history ID, which is session ID, I know who the user is by the username in case that ever changed. This is immutable. This is audit data. But then, very fun, I have additional information like a correlation ID or where this came from, right? And really, login forensics is the tip of the iceberg. Another feature that we talked about, and this is very much in conjunction with what we're doing with transaction security, is data exfiltration. I keep hearing from customers, tell me who's taking data off the platform. If it's legitimate or not legitimate, we can enforce it by policy, but I just simply want to know. And since API, if you notice, that was one of the things that Yari highlighted. We are a very API-driven company. More than 51% of our network traffic goes through it. For instance, when people go and they access sensitive fields like social security number or PII, like email and phone and name, we want to know about that. We want to know which records people saw, right? What did they see when it was sensitive? And so we built out this pilot called data leakage, which we launched and gave you some very good information, but we advanced that in spring to not only tell you who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, but also did they access particular cookies like social security number or phone number, and then what actual users, right, and what actual records were viewed. And this one is critical, right, because what happens is when my auditors come and say, who saw Mark Benioff's pension record, which we blogged about in Salesforce Hacker, or who saw this patient's record, which is a HIPAA compliance standard. Now all of a sudden, using great new functionality like async SOCL, I can now create things that are reportable in nature. So I can tell you that this user on this date ran this query against this particular contact record, and I can tell you what records were returned. And that becomes incredibly powerful for the audit use case. So to wrap this up, we've been working very, very hard in the past year. We brought on transaction security. Yari has been phenomenal. And we are really trying to differentiate from our trusted platform to all the things that are above and beyond that are part of this add-on that is Salesforce Shield. For instance, login forensics is fundamentally different from login history in that it's 6 months versus 10 years. 10 years is a long time. But it's also extensible, and we can do very cool things with it because it's in our big data stack. So data leakage, I talked about with real-time events. To get to our roadmap, I'm just going to take the top half. Event monitoring is both about analytics and actions. We talked about today the things that we are doing in Spring 16. Looking forward, what we are starting to work on today as a team is to get that Wave app to generally availability, which we're hoping in the summer 16 release will come out. We heard from a number of customers who are using event log files. 24 hours is good. I want better. So we're working on a pilot for the summer 16 release to get it down to about an hour. That way we can get a lot of that performance, optimization, and adoption information out sooner. And then finally, in the second half of 2016, it's really about bringing these things all to fruition with generally available features, in which case, hopefully, I will be a third-time presenter in Release Readiness Live.
Well, I'm gonna hit you with one question right up front. We have a lot of features. We have great security features for everyone. But can you speak to this evolution of our security add-ons and the reasoning behind that roadmap? Because I want to set the stage for our audience.
You know, I love that question. And I actually get that question on a daily basis. That's why it's one of my favorite questions. When event monitoring came out, and indeed Salesforce Shield, one of the responses we heard from our customers is, okay, it's an add-on. I kind of get that there's an additional charge. Why? Why is it different, right? Why is it different from the things that we already do? And I have to go back at the high level. When we talk about being multi-tenant, and the analogy that oftentimes we talk about with multi-tenancy is many different organizations sharing the same apartment building, right? And there's just really fundamental security aspects of that apartment building. Locks on doors, locks on windows, a doorman or woman that is put in place to ensure security for everyone. But then there are some of those apartments in that apartment building that they really need to go above and beyond. Right? They need a security door, or they need a guard dog, or they need video cameras. And those are things that fall on the tenant to really do, right? Those are above and beyond what is as part and parcel as part of that trust of that apartment building. And that really is the strategy around the add-ons. We take trust very seriously, and we define trust as all those things that we do from a security standpoint to ensure that we have security for everyone. But we also know as we go into certain industries, regulated industries, healthcare, life sciences, financial services, different regions of the world, that there are additional security capabilities that maybe not everyone needs or requires, but definitely particular customers. And we want to be able to make sure that when we focus in on those customers being able to do it, we are doing things that are truly extraordinary and are cost effective for us for being able to do things like login forensics, right? If you think about that, login history, it's very transactional, it's very now, you can do very cool things, but it only goes 6 months. It's temporal in nature. But when you talk about audit use cases, which not all of our customers have, many of them have regulatory requirements that go up to 10 years, then we start to get into that really add-on posture of, well, for 10 years, then we need to talk about additional storage and capabilities, and that's really more of a niche for our customers, and that really has been the general guidance that we've used as why we differentiate some aspects of the Trust Platform as just security for everyone versus some aspects which are truly part of this add-on that we're proud to bring to market with Salesforce Shield.
I'm getting a lot of questions about the metrics that you were showing, and people want to understand, do they need a Wave Analytics licensing for that kind of event monitoring that you were showing? So what do they have to be able to be at that party?
You got it. So admin analytics is predicated entirely on the event log files, which does require an event monitoring license. In addition, while it is in pilot, it does require having the Wave platform. If you have both the Wave platform license and you have the event monitoring license, then it is a very simple task for an AE to reach out to me for me to turn it on. And I am happy to turn it on because I want more people using this, not less. I think this is a very powerful feature. In terms of where it's going to go in the future, that is as we get to generally available, then for RevRec reasons and legal reasons, I get to share exactly how that is going to work from a Wave licensing perspective.
Okay, so we have to kind of wait for that for going forward. But if you have Wave and event monitoring, then
I will just turn that thing on for you, and you can analyze to your heart's content.
I think a lot of account executives are going to get phone calls a day.
I hope so.
So in case you didn't catch that, you got to call your account executive, and then they'll reach out to you.
It's interesting. We're in the middle of Q4 right now. We're ending January 31st, and I am on constant email and chatter and phone calls around this exact question. And we actually have a lot of deals that are being done where customers are saying, okay, I want restricted licenses around this ability to have both Wave and event monitoring, because it's a phenomenal way to understand how Wave works. It's a gateway that allows you to really understand the power of exploring your data. And because there's so much wonderful data that you can mine from event monitoring that just becomes easy at your fingertips with that app.
Say again how the login forensics is different to the login history. I heard 6 months, 10 years, anything else?
So that's, if there's a guiding rule of thumb, that's probably it. But there is more, right? When I talk about things like data leakage, where you have the ability to capture at a very granular level the records that were viewed, not just edited, but viewed. One of the key aspects of that is that ability to track it back to a single session, right? Because here's the flow I hear from customers. They say, I really want to understand if someone saw Mark Benioff's pension record, I want to be able to understand not just how they did that, but what else did they see? Because maybe this was just a targeted action, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was many actions. So for instance, I can see that Mark Benioff's social security number was accessed here. I can then come back to the session ID, and I can use that session ID to correlate across multiple activities. But not only that, because I can actually bring that into login forensics, now I actually have a profile that differentiates by browser, by API type, that creates a profile of a characteristic. So if someone asks me, who actually saw that, and was it actually that person? I can now not only say, yes, it was that person, or no, but I can say, here were all of the other things that they saw. And this is because we're able to effectively team with the authentication team as they come out with these wonderful schemas and data models around login information, verification information. We're able to work closely with them. They handle these phenomenal transactional applications, and we can now create these amazing audit applications. But that starts with login forensics. So login forensics at face value, it's longer login history, but it becomes so much more powerful as we start to get into a lot of these trackability and audit use cases where I need to track this to a very granular level. Who stole the cookie from the cookie jar, and what was that cookie?